Transform and roll out!
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're going to be checking out the Transformers 1 Brave Commander Optimus Prime, which is Takara Tomi's own take on the latest Prime design. And as seen in previous years, to coincide with the release of a theatrical movie, Takara tends to usually throw it back to the late 2000s to give us something which is very similar in design to what was then considered as being a leader class. And this movie, Transformers 1, is no exception. This Optimus Prime is big, accurate, and packed with a ton of gimmicks. And really does just go to show that you don't need to be a brick to be a decent toy, unlike Hasbro's flip and change Optimus Prime. Which is actually quite cool. When it comes down to his robot mode, this guy looks pretty damn fantastic and is likely to be right now the best transforming version of this design. But that's not to say that he is without his faults. The shoulders, these are easily my biggest issue with the way he looks. They're just a little too clunky, I guess, or maybe it's that the chest is too small. Either way, I do find these to kind of throw off the proportions, which, yes, I know may be being a little petty, as these two technically need to be this large to prevent any parts forming when it does come down to the truck mode. But what doesn't help them in the slightest is that the shoulder joint is only on a pin, meaning that with their weight paired with any accessory, they almost instantly collapse, which can be so frustrating. Besides that though, this guy is still looking pretty great, and I particularly love the running theme of Takara Tomy integrating retractable mouthguards into their figures, especially in the case of this Optimus Prime, as in the movie we do primarily see him without it equipped. Just make sure that you don't stare at it for too long. As far as the back goes, this too for the most part is very clean looking. The backpack that he does have, I actually think is incredibly impressive from a design standpoint, as almost the entire front end of the truck collapses and compresses, Age of Extinction Galvatron style. The only part of this design which honestly I'm not too crazy about would be the points of connection that are used to hold this in place. These are seriously kind of weak, and just by putting him in a simple pose can become very easily detached. But with that being said, this is still mostly a very solid Optimus Prime, and as far as the movie design goes, with the exception of a potential masterpiece, I think he's likely the best we're gonna get. In terms of accessories, up first we do see the return of the iconic Energon Battle Axe, which if you've checked out the movie, you guys will know was the absolute MVP of the final battle. The only downside to this for myself would be that to match the movie design, this is lacking some of the internal orange, which I also think would be a great throwback to the original G1 design. But one accessory that was most definitely bang on the money when it came down to both paint and design would be the legendary Matrix of Leadership, which has a huge role to play in the film, as this is responsible for making the transition from Orion Pax into the heroic leader of the Autobots, Optimus Prime. Articulation time for Optimus Prime. The head is on a ball joint, so can be spun side to side and can also be lifted upwards, although almost instantly becomes a full-blown QC issue. Yikes! The shoulders can kick outwards and can be brought both forwards and backwards. The bicep can spin, the elbow can bend, the wrist can rotate, and the hands can open and close. The waist can complete the full 360-degree Exorcist twist. The hips can kick outwards, as well as both forwards and backwards. The thigh can then spin, the knee will bend, and the ankles will kick forwards, backwards, as well as rock both in and out, although unfortunately are somewhat limited. But as I'm sure you guys all know by now, to see the true power of this Prime, the time has come for us to put him through the pose test. Flying through a few comparisons, firstly we are bringing out the Studio Series Deluxe Class Optimus Prime, which is actually a very solid figure, especially for the price point, but despite its faults, I still think the Brave Commander is better. Personally, I much prefer the colour scheme, and I do quite like how he does tower over this Deluxe Class counterpart, which I know for some may be the make or break. Seeing as he is a Takara Tomy exclusive, it's very unlikely that we will be getting a companion piece, so in terms of size, he is most definitely going to become an anomaly, but honestly guys, guys, I actually think he stacks up really nicely alongside some of YOLO Park's cog transformers, such as D16/Megatron, and we may as well fly through the rest of the cast. So here we have Orion Pax, B127 aka
Badassatron,
and I actually think the scale between these two is pretty bang on. And the same can also be said for the final form of Elita 1. To be honest, I think these make for great companion pieces, stacked up alongside this Optimus Prime. But for some more recent mainline comparisons, firstly we have the Studio Series 86 Commander class, the myth, the legend that is the Earthrise Optimus Prime, the mainline Optimus Prime, and then finally the mini
Badassatron.
Transformation time for Optimus Prime. Firstly, you are going to take these smokestacks and flip these here all the way around as you would if you wanted to singe Megatron's ass. Again guys, do the same for the second side. As we are now going to spin around to this guy's backpack, take a hold of this gunmetal component and begin to fold out some of these additional panels stored on the inside. With that all said and done, you are then going to take the backpack, slide this here down, and then begin to spin this here around on this swivel joint, just like that. Here is where you're going to see just how awesome that compression was, because we are now going to take this panel, fold this here forwards. You are then going to take this grey section, fold this outwards, and stored on the inside are an additional 2 panels, which also you are going to want to fold out. There are then these sections, which you must make sure to compress inwards, just like that. For the next step, we are totally going to pull a 2007 movie Jazz, because you are going to grab a hold of the chest unit and extend all of these hinge joints here upwards. You are then going to take a hold of Optimus Prime's head and slide this backwards, just like that.
Where's my head?
And then to match the second side, we are now going to take the shoulders, angle these backwards, and then detach the shoulders away from the chest unit. Now the aim of the game here is for that slot to slide into that tab, just like this. As we are now going to take a hold of the entire backpack and slide this here up and over the existing chest unit, until eventually you should be left with something which is looking like that. For the next step, you are now going to take the shoulders and lock these into a whole host of tabs and slots. Again guys, be sure to do the same for the second side. You are then going to turn to the side of the truck, where we are now going to take these panels and clasp these here inwards until they do actually click into place. For the next step, we are then going to spin around here to the back, where we are going to take the backpack and snap these tabs into these slots, just like this. Now, here comes the fun part, because we are about to compress the forearms into the underside of the truck. So, grab a hold of the bicep and spin this here all the way around to the back. You are then going to take the fist, angle this upwards, bend the elbow backwards, and slide this here inwards until eventually it does match up there with the second side. For the next step, we are now going to grab a hold of the waist joint and spin this all the way around until eventually the back is now facing the front. For this next step, this is actually pretty cool. So you are going to take this panel, slide this down. You are then going to grab a hold of this panel on the inside and flip this here upwards. Then what you must make sure to do is take a hold of the shin and pry this upwards slightly, just so that we can then detach the knee from the inside of the shin. You are then going to make use out of this double hinge joint and compress the thigh within that hollow cavity until eventually you can then spin this guy here to the side and line that tab up with a slot which was originally positioned on the underside of the elbow. Again guys, make sure to do the same for the second side, so that we can then take a hold of both components and combine these here directly down the middle. For the next step, we are then going to take a hold of the heel spur and fold this here upwards, and then take the foot and slide this here backwards. Again, do the same for the second side, so that we can then flip back to the underside, take a hold of the front set of wheels and fold these here inwards. And bang! Here is Optimus Prime, now fully transformed into his Cybertronian alt form. When it does come down to the overall design, again appears to be dead on to the actual CG render. The entire front end of the truck has not only been really well detailed, but also completely filled in front side to back. And I think easily one of the biggest improvements this guy does have going for him would be how Takara Tomy have almost seamlessly integrated both the forearms and the fists into the underside. This is a huge improvement from a design standpoint, and personally I think absolutely blows away the look of the Studio Series Deluxe. As we spin this guy here around to the back, yet again those gunmetal components are looking sick, and considering that this is a Cybertronian based truck mode, I actually think the back of the truck for the most part tidies up really nice. I also thought that it was a really sweet Easter egg how this trailer hitch is compatible with multiple versions, more recently the Studio Series 86 Commander. Now you guys may be asking yourselves that considering unlike the Studio Series version this guy does not need to parts form, where exactly exactly is he hiding his inbuilt blasters? Well guys, in true Takara Tomy style, they have fully integrated these bad boys into the design, and in order to activate them, you simply take this switch and push it upwards, bang, to reveal two inbuilt Cybertronian blasters, which personally I thought was sick, and paired alongside the super smooth rolling wheels, this guy should have no issues in blowing those Decepticons off the Cybertronian battlefield. Rolling out into some truck mode size comparisons, yet again we are back at it with the Studio Series Deluxe Class Optimus Prime. Now like I said previously, don't get me wrong, I still really like this figure, especially for the price point, but the brand new Brave Commander, I do think when it comes down to a transforming version of this design, at the moment is most definitely the best. It does just kinda suck that, as mentioned previously, I don't believe there will be any figures made that are specifically designed to pair with him when it does come down to scale. Here is how he stacks up alongside the 86 movie Optimus Prime, and surprisingly, I actually think these two here are very comparable when it does come down to size, as they are both pretty much identical to each other. Here we have the myth, the legend, that is the Earthrise Optimus Prime, which is actually quite a bit smaller in comparison, but nowhere near as small as the tiny mainline Prime Changers Deluxe Class Optimus Prime. This thing is completely dwarfed by the Brave Commander. And then finally, we have the Deluxe Class mainline B127, aka
Badassatron!
So, wrapping up on this review for the Takara Tomy exclusive Transformers 1 Brave Commander Optimus Prime. I actually think for the most part this is a pretty good looking figure. Definitely not without its flaws. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of the overly large shoulders in robot mode, nor the very easily detachable backpack, but right now this is easily shaping up to be the best transforming version of this design, and the transformation is an absolute blast. Enjoyable, yet definitely involved in some areas, but results in a banging truck mode, which personally I think without any doubt at all decimates any of the other versions of this design we've seen. I guess this guy really does only have two major downfalls. The first one would be that he is a Takara Tomy exclusive, so unfortunately does warrant a very hefty price tag, and the second one would be that I don't believe he is intended to scale with any other Transformers, meaning that he really is going to stick out like a sore thumb, especially if you do want to stack him up alongside the rest of the Studio Series or mainline Transformers 1 figures. I would love to get your guys' thoughts on this Brave Commander Optimus Prime down in the comment section below. I want to thank you guys all so much for watching, and until my next video, transform and roll out!